Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the law of supply and some of the assumptions and how the law of supply is going to work. So today also just we will remain about the supply curve and we will go to the next concept. As per the law of supply, other things remaining the same if the price of a commodity increases, its quantity supplied increases. And if the prices of a commodity decreases, like that the quantity supplied also will be decreases. So in this law of demand we have studied the inverse relationship between the price and the quantity demand of the commodity. But here in this law of supply there is a positive relationship. Whenever the price of a commodity is increased, so on the basis of the increased price of the commodity, the supply also will be increased. Like that, whenever the price of the commodity is going to decrease, the supplied quantity amount also will be decreased. But in these definitions, we have studied one things. That is the other things remaining the same only, it will be applied. When other things remaining the same, if the price of a commodity increase or changes only, the quantity supplied of commodities also will be decreased. So after that we have studied the supply schedule. So here see the table, the price and the supply of commodities also mentioned here. So when the price of a commodity is 1 rupee, the supply of commodities may be as 20 unit. So whenever the price of commodities is going to increase, the supply of commodities also going to increase. So on the basis of the supply curve also we have understood whenever the price is going to increase and the supply of the commodities also going to increase. So the supply curve also will be upward from left to right. Okay student, then today we will study the factors determining supply. So what are the factors dominating the or determining the supply of commodity? So first the price of the commodity. So the price of the commodity only is the most determining factor to changing the supply of commodity. So higher the price of the larger the supply. So price is the incentive for the producers and sellers to supply more. So normally the value of commodity is determined the price of that commodity only. Whenever the price of the commodity have been the higher, the supply of commodities also expecting to going to increase. Normally on the basis of the demand, when the price is low, the demand will be increased, right? But here the price of the commodity is going to increase, the supply also going to increase. Because when the price of the commodity is going to increase, only the sellers and the producers also going to get more incentives and more profit. So normally all the producers and the sellers want to expecting to increasing the price of commodities. So always they will expecting to increasing the price of the commodities. So whenever the price of the commodity is increased, so it will be determining the supply of commodity. So the price of commodity is one of the most important factor to determining the supply of commodity. Next, price of other commodity. How the price of other commodity determining the supply? So already we have studied on the basis of the substitute commodity. If we have the more related commodity or more substitute commodities, we will go to purchase the other substitute commodities. Now, if the price of other commodity is increased, the supply of commodities may be decreased. When the price of other commodities also going to increase, the supply of commodity will be increased. The supply of a commodity depends not only upon its price, but also price of other commodities. For instance, if the price of commercial crops like cotton rise, this may result in reduction in cultivation of food crops like paddy and soy supply. because the producers also want to earning more profit. So whenever they are thinking like that, so they will produce which commodities has the high price. So now if the price of commercial crops like cotton and tobacco is rise, this may result in reduction in the cultivation of food crops like paddy and so its supply. Because when the producers going to cultivate the price rice and the paddy, they will earning less profit. But instead of that, if they are producing the commercial crops like a cotton, tobacco, and this something any other crops, they will earning more profit. So the price of other commodities also determining the supply of commodities. If the price of the other commodity is reduced, the supply of commodities for the substitute good will be increased. Next, price of factors. So when the input prices go up, this result in the rise in cost and so supply will be affected. So we have studied the factors of productions, right? So the land, labor, capital and organizations. So whenever the price for the factor of production is going to increase, the supply will be reduced. And whenever the prices for the factor of production is going to increase, the supply will be affected. Affected, I mean the supply will be decreased because all the factors will be get their remunerations in higher ratios. So the higher remunerations also have to be added in the cost of productions. So when the time of producing more with the high price for the factor of productions, so the producers will be unable to increasing the supply of commodity. So the prices of factor of production is also one of the reasons to determining the supply of commodity. Next, price expectations. The expectation over future prices determines present supply. As we told already in the factors determining on the demand, the expectations also will be affected the supply of commodity. Now the peoples are going to expecting that is the price of the commodity is going to reduce in futures, the supply will be affected. Because even in the time of low demanded period, if the producers increasing the supply, so the supply will not going to the market and they will not get any reasonable price. So if a rise in price is anticipated in future, the sellers tend to retain their producers for future sale. And so supply in present market is reduced. Normally in the time of festival, the Deepavali and the Christmas time only, the consumers will going to expect that the price of the clothes and some of the grocery items also will be increased. So because of that, so before the festival time, they won't purchase any of the clothes and grocery items. So by predicting the consumers' expectations by the producers also will be reduced the supply of commodities in the present. Next, technology. So with the advancement in technology, production level improves. So average cost declines and as a result, supply level increases. When the producers are going to adopt the modern technology to produce any of the commodity, they can able to produce more with the low cost of productions. So by the new arrival of the technology in the industrial sector, the supply of commodities will be increased. Next, the natural factors. In agricultural, natural factors like monsoon, climate, etc. play a vital role in the supply of commodity. Normally, if you are considering the agricultural sectors, the natural factors are there. So the monsoon and the rainfalls and irrigation facilities and the good prosperities land. If the natural factor is availability more and it is the prosperous one thing. So the supply of commodity will be increase. So not only the agricultural sector, even in the industrial sector, on the basis of the natural factors, the supply of commodity will be increased or will be changed. For example, in the Gulf countries as the more petroleum resources. So because of that, they will produce more petrol with the high rates, but they will produce the petrol with low cost. So on the basis of the natural resource, natural factors also, the supply will be affected. Next, discovery of new raw materials. If the new raw material is finding out by any of the persons, because of that the supply will be increased. So this discovery of new raw materials which are cheaper and of high quality tends to increase the supply of product. If any of the raw materials, if you are getting any of the raw materials which has more quality with the low price, means the people will finding out that product, and in the same time the producers also will be increasing the supply of commodities by the new raw materials. Next, taxes and subsidies. The subsidies for inputs like a credit, power, etc. encourage the producers to produce more. Like that, the taxes, if the governments are reducing the existing taxes or if they are not imposing the new taxes, the producers, without worrying about the taxes, he will produce more. Otherwise, the government have to be provide subsidies to producing the commodities by the industrial sector and the agriculture sector. If the government subsidies has been increased, so the supply of commodities also will be increased. Next, objectives of the firm. When the goal of the firm is sales maximization or improving market share, the supply of the product is like to be higher. If a good business organization has the most important objectives to earning more profit, they will finding out any of the new methods to increasing the supply of commodities. So on the basis of the objectives of the firm also, the supply will be increased. So here the 9 factors are there to determining the supply. First one is price of the commodity, next price of the other commodity, next price of factors of productions, next price expectations. The consumers will be expecting that is the price will be going to reduce in future, mean the current consumption will be reduced. Next, technology, new technologies are raised, because of that the supply of commodity may be increased. Next, natural factors. So the natural factors only will be the most important factors to improve the supply of commodities, mostly in the agricultural sector. Next, discovery of new raw materials. If any of the new raw materials is come to the market, the producers will be used to the new raw materials and they will produce the more commodities. Next, taxes and subsidies. If the government providing more subsidies and less taxes, the producers will be increasing the subsidies. Next, objectives of the firm. If the good firm has the proper objectives to earning more profit or providing the welfare to the public, he will be attaining their supply of commodity. Okay students, next, elasticity of supply. We have studied on the basis of law of supply. Whenever the price is increased, because of that the supply of commodities also increase. But the law of supply did not explain in which ratio the supply of commodity will be increased on the basis of increasing the price of that commodity. So elasticity of supply may be defined as the degree of responsiveness of change in supply to change in price of the part of sellers. When the price is going to change, the supply of commodities also will be changed. But in which ratio the supply will be changed on the basis of change in price of that commodity is explained by the elasticity of supply. So in this elasticity of supply, that 5 types are there. The 5 types of elasticity of supplies are there. First one is relatively elastic supply. Relatively elastic supply. The supply is going to be said to be relatively elastic when 1% change in the price of the commodity brings more than 1% change in quantity supplied of the commodity. Just see here the first picture or first diagram. If the price is just 1% is changed, so the point between the C and A, we can think it is the 1%, and we can think between the gap of the between the B and D is 2. So when the price is decreased just 1%, or the price of the commodity increased just 1% from A to C, the supply of commodity is increased 2% from B to D. So here we have to note one thing, the elasticity of supply. The supply is said to be relatively elasticity supply is greater than 1%. The elasticity of supply is greater than 1%, mean this supply is said to be relatively elastic supply. That is 1% of price is increased, the 2% of supply of commodity will be increased. So the elasticity of supply is greater than 1%. Okay, so the price is increased 1%. On the basis of increasing the 1%, the 2% supply of commodity will be increased. This is called relatively elastic supply. Next, relatively inelastic supply. Relatively inelastic supply. Here we have to note the price of commodity increase 1%. The supply of commodity will be increased less than 1%. Here we can thinking the gap between the A and C is the 2%, but the supply of commodity between the B and D is the 1%. Here when the prices of a commodity is increased 2% from A to C, the supply of commodities just increased from B to D. So when the price of a commodity increased as 2%, it will causes or it will be bring the supply of commodity or increasing the supply of commodities just 1% from B to D. So here the elasticity of supply is less than 1%. That is, the price of the commodity is increased 2% or 1%. So the supply of commodities will be increased less than 1%. So it is called relatively inelastic supply. So the price of the commodities or the increasing the price of commodity is not creating the more supply. Next, the unitary elastic supply. So the coefficient of elastic supply is equal to 1%. The elasticity of supply always will be equal to 1%. So whenever the price of the commodity is going to increase, or in which ratio the price of commodity is increased, on the basis of the same ratio only the supply of commodities also will be increased. Here the difference between the point between A and C is 1%. Like that, the between the point of B and D is also 1%. If the price of commodity is increased just 1% from A to C, so like that the supply of commodities also will be increased 1% from B to D. So the price of the commodities and the supply of the commodities also will be the same. So it is said to be the unitary elastic supply. The elasticity supply will be equal to 1. If the 1% price is increased, the 2% commodities also increased. Next, perfectly elastic supply. So the supply is said to be perfectly elastic supply. when the coefficient of elasticity is equal to equal to infinity. So 1% change in the price of commodity causes an infinite change in the quantity supply of the commodity. Suppose when the price of commodity is in the D or from the C, just 1% price of commodities increased from any one of the point, the supply will be increased with infinity. For example, the supply of the gold. Suppose the price of the gold is increasing day by day. So the producer of the gold also will be increasing the supply of the gold on the basis of increasing the price of that gold. So just to see, if the price of commodity is increased slightly from any one of the point from the O, the supply of commodity will be increased infinity. So there is no end, because even the slight change in the price of commodity will bring more profit to the producers. So this type of supply is considered as a perfectly elastic supply. Perfectly elastic means the slight change in the price of the commodity will bring more supply of commodity. Next, perfectly inelastic supply. Perfectly inelastic supply means even the price of commodity is increased from 1.2, 1% to 2% or 3%. The supply of commodities will never change. For example, so I will tell later the example for the perfectly inelastic supply, but just to understand, so the price of a commodity is increased even many percentage, the supply of commodity will never change. So that is called perfectly inelastic supply. So here the supply curve will be as a vertical, because even the price of commodities increase, so the supply will never change, because some of the price of commodity will never bring the supply of commodities. Even when the supply of commodity is increased, they will never producing more commodities. We can tell the price of the salt, even the price of the salt is increased, we will use the salt as normal one when the price of salt is low. So even the price of commodity is going to increase more, the supply will never increase. Okay, so the supply is said to be perfectly inelastic supply. When the elasticity of supply is equal to 0, there is no supply of commodities on the basis of increasing the price of that commodity. Okay student, next, factors governing elasticity of supply. So whichever factors will be determining the elasticity of supply. So first one is nature of the commodity. So durable goods can be stored for a long time. So the producers can wait until they get a high price. Once they get higher price, larger supply is possible. The elasticity of supply of durable goods is high, but perishables are to be sold immediately. So perishables have low elasticity of supply. So on the basis of the nature of commodity, the elasticity of supply will be determined. Once if the price of the durable goods is increased, and the time of increasing the price of durable goods, the producers will increasing the supply of commodities. So not only the durable goods, whenever the comfort goods and the luxury goods, the price of the comfort goods and the luxury goods is going to increase, on the basis of increasing the price of that durable and the comfort and the luxury goods, the supply of commodity will be increased. But if the in the way of perishable goods, it is not like that. Even if the price of perishable goods is increased within the nature of perishable, so the supply will not increase. Next, cost of production. When production is subject to either constant or increasing returns, so additional production and therefore increased supply is possible. So normally the producers want to earning the profit with the increase in returns or the constant returns. So we didn't study the increasing returns on the profit and the constant return of the production. We will study later, but simply I am telling what's the meaning of increasing returns. If you are make the investment, so in increasing rate we have to get the profit. So suppose when the production is subject to either constant or increasing returns, so the additional production and therefore increased supply is possible. So elasticity of supply is greater under diminishing returns. So increase in output leads to high cost, so elasticity of supply is less. When one production unit being in the increasing returns or the constant returns to scale, the supply of commodity will be increased. Suppose if the production unit are being in diminishing returns, the supply of commodity will be in less. Next, technical conditions. So in large scale production with huge capital investment, supply cannot be adjusted easily. So elasticity of supply is lesser in the large scale productions. So where capital equipment is less and technology simple, the supply is more elastic. So when your producers are using the producers are producing any of the commodities by using the labor sensitive method, labor intensive method, so they can't produce more commodities, though the supply will never increase within the short time or by using the labor intensive capital. But in the same time, if the producers are producing any of the commodities by using the technical or new arrival of technical, the supply of commodities can easily increase even in the long time or the short time. So the technical conditions are also one of the factors to governing the elasticity of supply. Next, time factor. The time also one of the factors to governing the elasticity of supply. During very short period when supply cannot be adjusted, so elasticity of demand is very low. But in short period, the variable factors can be added and so supply can be adjusted to some extent. So in the time on the large scale and the long time, so during the short time period, the supply of commodity will be very low. But in the long period, even the fixed factors can be added and hence supply is highly elastic. In the short period, we cannot easily adjust the variable factors. And when we are adjusting the variable factor, we cannot increasing the more supply. But even in the long time period, so we can adjust the variable factors and the fixed factors also. Because of that, the supply of commodities will be increased higher. So the four factors are there to determining the elasticity of supply: the nature of commodity, cost of production, and the technical conditions and the time factors. Okay students, today we have studied the factors determining supply and the types of elasticity of supply and the factors governing the elasticity of supply. If you have any doubt in this chapter, please ask me, and take these factors determining the supply as your study portions. And our third lesson is also completed. If you have any doubt in this third lesson, please ask me. Thank you.